Challenges is the latest film directed by Luca Guadagnino, the Italian writer-director behind the Academy Award-nominated Call Me By Your Name and that remake of Suspiria which released in 2018, which just about everyone can give an E for effort while agreeing it doesn't at all hold a candle to Dario Argento's original film. When it comes to Luca, I think I'm close to polar opposite in terms of the reactions surrounding his films, in that I think Bones and All was an incredible exploration of trauma and love through the eyes of cannibalism, and Call Me By Your Name is an uneventful movie in dire need of direction, where the best part of the film is Timothée Chalamet crying by a fireplace in the final 5 minutes, but I digress. His latest film sees him dive into the world of tennis, following Tashi Duncan, played by Zendaya, a former tennis prodigy who had to retire after suffering a devastating knee injury. Today she coaches her husband, tennis player Art Donaldson, played by Mike Faist, who's been on quite an embarrassing run of tennis losses and must put pedal to the metal when Tashi signs him up for a challenger match, where he must duke it off against Patrick Zwake, played by Josh O'Connor, who is his ex-best friend and also happens to be Tashi's ex-boyfriend. What results is a kinetic, emotionally powerful, at times intense experience, with interpersonal drama that is just as compelling and fraught with tension as the scenes inside the tennis court. Writer Justin Kuritzkis, who's also married to Celine Song, writer of Past Lives, said that his passion for creating this movie came from his love of tennis. In its current form, he already found himself incredibly enthralled and compelled by the game of tennis, yet he couldn't help but ask himself just how much more thrilled and invested in the eventual outcome of each game he would be if he knew just what the stakes were for each person in the field, and what winning the game would mean for each of them. So through the lens of cinema, in which we can use narrative form to set the stakes and understand how each person involved in the match, both on-court and off-court, intersect with one another, we can watch a tennis match with stakes just as personal as they are professional. This is the greatest strength of Challenges as a film, the complex web of emotions that tie the trio of protagonists to one another, drawing them toward each other time and time again like moths to the same destructive, dreadful flame. Each one is an incredibly complex character defined by three-dimensional desires, flaws, and strengths that you feel like you could reach across the screen and touch them. Cleverly, the movie begins in 2019 at the present-day challenger match between Art and Patrick, and then cuts back and forth between the present day and the past, using the flashbacks to gradually stack layers upon layers to the characters, delving further into the personal stakes. Such exceptionally written characters are deserving of 3 equally talented young actors who can find as much depth to the characters as what's on the page, and it certainly finds itself a hell of a cast in Euphoria's Zendaya, West Side Story's Mike Faist, and The Crown's Josh O'Connor. The 3 each bring their characters to life in unique ways, finding a lot of depth and meaning in between the words, and imbuing them each with defining mannerisms and characteristics. Zendaya brings an easeless, undeniable quality of sensuality to Tashi while pulling off an incredible transition between the youthful exuberance of her younger years to the stoic focus of her present-day self, who still feels repressed by the career she was never able to have. Josh O'Connor defines Patrick with a showmanship quality both on the court and off the court. It's an incredibly physical performance in which he'll often lean forward, getting up in people's face, to the point where you're unsure if he's gonna scold them or lean in for a kiss. He's easily the strongest comedic force of the film, and though the film isn't quite as comedic as I would have thought it would be when Luca described it as his first comedy, he still gets off quite a few good singers. On the other hand, Faist turns in the least magnetic performance of the 3, yet it's quite fitting for the character, bringing him to life as a man defined by his own lack of passion and an increasingly waning determination. The 3 each have chemistry with each other, and even when the movie has 3 consecutive scenes of the trio talking with little variation but the location, you feel you could watch 3 more. Despite not featuring much sex, this is an incredibly sensual film. Guadagnino introduces a homoerotic element to Patrick and Art's dynamic that isn't present in Kurtz's original script. Not only do they eat numerous phallic-shaped foods, whether it's a churro or a banana, there are moments in the movie that blur the line between erotic and platonic, with Patrick remarking he misses playing with Patrick later on in the film. When asked whether this movie would feature homoerotic elements, Luca Guadagnino replied, "It's me, what do you expect?" Yeah, I was surprised at just how subtle the movie is about it. Everyone involved in the film has played pretty coy about whether or not Ott or Patrick are gay, and while I wouldn't have had a problem with the movie being explicit in its answer, I found the ambiguity to be equally as compelling. Luca's last film, Bones and All, was a visually gorgeous film, but I didn't expect to walk away from this movie feeling like Luca visually outdid himself, yet he absolutely did, especially in terms of the tennis matches. Not only does he make tennis incredibly erotic using slow motion to capture the veins in Josh O'Connor's arms as he slams a racket to the ground, or the sweat on Mike Faist's face as it falls off and drips toward the camera, he also mines the game of tennis for every ounce of cinematic potential he can find within it. Whether it's shooting the game from a god's eye view, using first person POV shots, or at one point even turning the camera into the ball and having them strike it back and forth across the net. The tennis matches feel incredibly tense, made even more exhilarating by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's brilliant score, which Guadagnino described as being inspired by house and dance music. It is an incredibly invigorating score which is intentionally overwhelming by design, with the filmmakers making a genius decision to play the music which we come to associate with the tennis during conversational scenes. Whether it's to capture how the dialogue scenes often feel like games of their own to the characters, or to hint a character reflecting on their past tennis glory. I think it just might be my favorite score from the 9 Inch Nails duo yet. The marketing around challenges has come to be defined by the three-way kissing in the trailer, and the ensuing juvenile memes about how Tom Holland, a fellow actor who's filmed his own share of intimate scenes, is gonna burst into a fit of rage when he watches this movie, which does a huge disservice to just how complex and mature Challenges is. This is far from a cheap soap opera-esque love triangle movie aimed solely at young adults. It's a brilliant portrait of three damaged, flawed human beings who orbit around one another, and how their life devolves into a kinetic game to be won or lost both on and off the court. I'm rating this a 9 out of 10, but with how layered the characters in the movie are by design, I could see it going even higher on rewatch. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and whenever you get the chance to see Challenges, let us know what you think about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.